the rise of China. Absolutely monumental, absolutely historic. The entire 21st century will entirely revolve around the role of China in the global economy as the biggest economy. In 2016, China overtook the US as the largest economy on earth when you measure its GDP at purchasing power parity. Oftentimes, China's GDP is measured at current exchange rates of the yuan to the dollar in dollar terms, which makes China's economy look much smaller because, the yuan is pretty undervalued. It's very affordable. And that makes exports more competitive. Well, when you adjust for purchasing power, China has been larger than the US economy for a decade now, and every year it's growing. So if you look at a chart of China's share of the global economy over time and the US share, they're going in opposite directions. China's becoming more important. China is about 20% of the global economy now and growing. The US is now less than 15% and falling. So that was a monumental shift. And then another part of that, which is deeply related to it, is China becoming the world's factory, the manufacturing superpower. And this has become a huge issue today, right? Because not only Trump, but every US leader, even Biden, tried to re-industrialize the US. This is bipartisan. Biden talked about bringing back industrial policy. Trump says he wants to bring in all these investments to make factories in the US. Unfortunately, I think both Biden obviously failed. I think Trump's also going to fail. We're already seeing that actually. Bloomberg reported that manufacturing jobs are actually falling. And a big reason for that is the tariffs, right? Because there's so much uncertainty. Why would you invest in the US? You don't know what the tariff rate's going to be. And a lot of these manufacturers, they need imported goods from China. They need parts. They also need intermediate goods. So even if you're going to make some kind of manufactured good in the US, you need all of the other assembled parts that are in that intermediate good that are imported. And the tariffs, you don't know what the tariff rate will be. You can't make any plans. So clearly the US needs to reindustrialize. Everyone admits that. Everyone accepts that. But it's very difficult to do that. Meanwhile, China is just constantly moving up the value chain, becoming the most high-tech manufacturer in certain industries now. They're catching up in semiconductors, but they're certainly the world leader in electric vehicles and solar panels. They're making huge progress in nuclear energy, and not only, traditional nuclear energy, but even salt thorium plants. And there's all these breakthroughs happening. They're talking about nuclear fusion. I mean, it's incredible. As someone who reports on China, I always feel like there's so much to talk about because every week there's another new development. It's incredible. So that's of course, go ahead.
So Ben, I just wanted to add into that because that's something that we talk specifically a lot about on this channel. But I think it's also really important, Ben, because if you're not studying China and you're not seeing what technology is coming out, you really are being left behind. And I think for example, just this week, the week that we're recording this, China has announced that they're building the world's largest solar farm up in the mountains in Tibet. They've just broken ground on the biggest hydro dam in Tibet as well, which is going to be incredible because that's going to create enough energy that could actually supply the equivalent of the entire United Kingdom. And so you kind of see this, interesting dynamic in China where even, if we contrast between the two, between the United States under Donald Trump, the United States is doubling down on fossil fuels. They're saying fossil fuels is the future. Actually, interesting enough, just this week, very quietly, the Trump administration just canceled the largest solar power facility in the United States. Actually, in my home state of Nevada, where I'm currently recording from, this was actually a solar plant that was actually going to power 2 million homes. It was actually reported on CNN that very quietly, kind of under the radar, Trump had canceled this. And so you kind of see this interesting dynamic. I wanted to add that to your analysis is, for our viewers out there, that you kind of see the United States and China going down in two different roads. China definitely is doubling down on renewable energy. They're dominant in solar, wind, wind turbines, obviously nuclear power, like you had said, the nuclear fusion reactors. It's actually a really exciting time, I feel, when you're looking at China, because like you said, every single week, there's a new technology that's coming from China that is really going to define the future of our world.